Welcome back, everyone, to our workshop. I'm afraid we've only got 6 of us. Does anybody have anything they wish to say? Declare your
Yes,
brilliant.
I wish I could find the time to do some of my own research.
I have it's a kind of strange experience that I thought I would share and see whether other people have had anything similar. I went last month, and it might be 5 or 6 weeks ago, to East Ham Cemetery to take pictures of the graves of some of my grandparents and some other relatives. And I had got the locations from Find a Grave. And so I went and I found the graves and I took the pictures and came back. I've made them into a little project in which I'm trying to show to all my cousins and their children how we're all related, because my paternal grandparents were, I thought they were the third, but they were actually the second spouses of each other. So the children were in a blended family, which were known as, depending on who was speaking, hers, his, or theirs, or yours, mine, and ours. And in a way, it doesn't matter, but it does if you're trying to research them, exactly what the relationships were. And then I thought, well, the least I can do is to post the pictures of the graves on Find a Grave. Only when I went back, my grandparents were no longer there. And I tried over several days and nothing happened. So I've now put them in as new entries, but I wondered whether anybody had had any experience similar to this. I mean, I wouldn't have found the graves in the first place without having got the information from Find a Grave. And I was a bit surprised that they'd then disappeared.
I suppose this is nothing to do. Raymond says that East Ham is now locked. It's not an open cemetery anymore.
No. Oh, sorry. No, it's open. It's open most days, I think 10 till 3.
That's right.
And I went before 10 before 3 on a Friday.
Well,
and
maybe it's changed then.
I also discovered that 2 of the people, the first spouses of my and of the grandparents that I was looking for, are buried in the Plachette Cemetery, which is 2 miles north of there. And I had understood that that was closed, but it appears to be open the same hours as well. So I'm going to go and try and take some pictures there. But I just found it very strange that my paternal grandparents had disappeared. My maternal grandfather, who is there, was still on the Find a Grave listing. And I wondered whether other people had had any sort of odd experiences with using that.
No, nothing
I'm
like
trying
that.
to be systematic now as I get
Bernard, you need to check, because Plachette is normally kept locked, especially in view of its location.
Okay. I will check.
But of course, they are all open for a number of hours on the...
They're open on Tisha B'Av.
On the 13th of August.
Yeah. That I know. So I might go then if I'm A, up to it, and B, have the time.
I'm hoping to get to Brady Street and maybe Alderney Road as well on that day.
No, it's my 2 of my great grandparents are buried. They were married to each other, but one is buried in East Ham and the other Plachette. And I went a couple of years ago, and probably the first family member to go there and say Kaddish since like the 1950s, I would think. Yeah.
I found stones on one of my grandparents' graves, so I'm guessing that somebody had been, although they could have been there for years.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, all my grandparents are in East Ham. I haven't been there for a long time.
And 3 of my
I'm looking. I don't know if everything is actually on the United Synagogue website. Is everybody who's buried in a United Synagogue, are they listed on their website?
No,
Yeah.
they're not all there.
So Sue is saying yes, and Gina
It's the same
is
for-
saying no.
They're not all there.
No, you're right, Gina. And it's the same with Willesden. I've found relatives. I've got about 130 relatives buried at Willesden, but some of them I found just by walking round, and they were not on the
Yes,
synagogue
me too.
database.
Yeah, because actually it does. Sometimes the name is there sometimes, and it says request a photograph, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're looking for something like sort of a second cousin who died when he was only aged 1. There's just no sign of him anywhere. So I just wondered, people still write? Years ago, I used to write to cemeteries, but I don't know if they'd even answer these days.
I think you can write, but I gather that it can take months for them to reply. I had a request that I'd sent twice, and then Lee very kindly spoke to somebody, and I got a reply within a couple of days. So,
Anita, why don't you just go into the office in Willesden and speak to them?
Why the Willesden has everybody?
They've got all the directories there. They've got all the burial books there. Yes.
Of all the United Synagogue cemeteries.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay.
Or otherwise Bushy, of course.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's Bushy had got all of them. Unless they
Willesden probably only have Willesden, actually, come to think of it, but they have got enormous tomes there.
Yeah.
I've looked at them.
Right.
But yeah, so it's all on computer in Bushy.
Right.
And they
So
have the books there as well. And
so,
you could just walk in and they help.
the
yes.
US does have its own Find a Grave website,
Yeah,
but
Yeah, it's not very useful because you have to know the information before you can actually look for something. It's always a waste of space. You have to say which you need to know, even if you don't know a first name, perhaps you only have a surname, it won't let you search, and you have to know which cemetery as well. Yeah. It's not exactly user-friendly.
No, whereas the Find a Grave site was useful because it identified my grandparents as being in East Ham, and then gave me the exact plots. Only then when I went back to put pictures on, which I've now done, I've reinstated them on Find a Grave. I've put the pictures on, and so, that's done.
Are they on Cemetery Scribes as well?
I didn't look on Cemetery Scribes.
Well, there are loads of other possibilities apart from the United Synagogue Find a Grave. There's loads of different websites with photographs of graves.
The Cemetery Scribes are only for older sort of burials. If you want something like a burial in the 1950s, it wouldn't be there.
Oh. No.
I did.
I don't know. I've sent them loads of photographs of more. Well, I don't know. Maybe not as recent as that. I'm sure I've sent them Willesden and various others.
I went to see my maternal grandmother's grave. She's in the Willesden Liberal Cemetery. And I got that by emailing the Liberal Jewish Synagogue. And they replied the next morning with the plot number, which I thought was pretty good. So in return, when I got there, their map on the prayer hall was completely unusable. So I've redone it for them in color with superimposed on an aerial picture so that people can actually find the plots that they're looking for if they have the plot number. So, and
my mother's siblings and their spouses are buried in that one. I haven't been there for a long time either, mainly because I don't live around there anymore. It's a bit of a long journey for me.
Whilst we have a captive audience, can I just ask, because I'm now sort of finding speakers for the Anglo group, are there any subjects that people are particularly interested in getting speakers for?
I have
trained.
I have a general thing, which I don't know. I don't think it's sort of specifically for the Anglo-SIG, but an Anglo-SIG session on it would be of interest. On Thursday night, I went to the Sefarad group, which is a group that holds meetings in Spanish from Buenos Aires on a regular basis. And they had a speaker who's a medical history researcher talking about the contribution of Sephardic Jews to medicine over time. It was a very well documented sort of historical analysis of the development of the Jewish medical profession over a couple of thousand years. But I am very interested in the role of Jewish doctors and Jewish medicine in the history of the Jews. And one of the things that I discussed with him was, at the time of inquisitions all across Europe, there was not a monarch or emperor or ruler of a country who did not have a Jewish doctor, and usually related to me in some way. And I'm very interested to sort of have some kind of session about the role of Jewish doctors in the process of the emancipation of Jews, and also of their contribution to medical history. So an Anglo section of it would be interesting.
We have an expert member, but I don't know if he's up to doing talks. He's written loads of books. They're all in the library on Jewish doctors and dentists and all sorts. So it's Michael Jollis.
Yeah, but he wasn't in such good health. I don't know what his health is like. Yeah.
But I mean, he has already done a lot of research on that.
I tell you what, I wouldn't mind a talk on Jews in the workhouse in sort of Victorian England. I mean, I have come across some family members, and I've just been sort of, when I have brought it up, I've been told, oh, they're not there for very long. You know, the Jewish community finds them and gets them out. And of course, going on with that, from that sort of Norwood as well. I think a lot of people are still interested in Norwood.
And yes, and come to that, the other thing, it's an awful long time since we had that lady tell us about Coney Hatch Asylum and all that work that went into it. That would draw people into the library because they can't see that information any other way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think we've all probably found somebody or other in the workhouse, and you just wonder why did family take them in? Why did they end up there? You know, sort of.
Why did children end up in Norwood when their parents both alive working?
No, they were very fussy. A lot didn't end up in Norwood. They were very, very fussy who they took in Norwood. Very fussy.
Well, of course, that is another project that was never continued. I put all those papers in order.
Yeah.
But that has never been indexed in any way because it's always been sort of a bit taboo.
It's a fascinating reading.
Which one is that?
The Norwood. We've got the Norwood stuff in the library. I found some of my relatives.
It's locked away, David. It's locked away. Many, many years ago, somebody who's no longer with us gave me 2 or 3 big carrier bags full of loose papers.
Yeah.
and asked me to do something with them, put them in order. And they had been gotten surreptitiously, shall we say. And they were the applications for the Jews Hospital and Asylum, as it was called, in Mile End.
Yeah.
And I moved all the furniture from my living room, and I sat there playing jigsaws with all these hundreds and hundreds of sheets, and it's all been put in order. But I mean, I've got names. I did an index of names, which is on my computer, but there's a lot of information. But unfortunately, some of it is quite sensitive information.
You know what years it covers? What the range?
I think it's 1895 to 1915. Let me just have a look and see if I can find it. Documents.
It's over 100 years, though.
I think they're over 100 years now. It might not have been when I did it.
Do you know how many pages?
I called it Asylum. Hold on. Let me move it. It's gone onto the wrong screen. Okay. Let's shut you off. Let's put it on the other screen for some reason. Okay, here we are. That's just the names. Well, there's 13 pages of names. That's just the name index. Oh. If I could find the cover sheet for it, maybe.
Doreen started to do some work.
She started it, and she couldn't. She gave up because it was too much. I'm trying to see if I got the dates, but
can you remember if this is manuscript or typed or mixture of both?
They were printed sheets.
Okay.
As far as I remember, it was all printed, and it had been photocopied by somebody, I believe, at Southampton University.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are. What is this? No, this is some notes I've got at the bottom. I had a cover sheet for it somewhere. How will I find that? London Hospital. No, not the London Hospital. That was a different one.
I would just like to know what happened to the children and what didn't take.
But I think it was 1895 to 1915. But for some reason, I can't see it. It may be on my external hard drive because it's so long ago.
Do you think you're talking about like hundreds of pieces of paper, or thousands, or
hundreds? Let me just look at it again, and I will tell you. Well, the pages go up to, I can see 100 pages. You see, what I've done here is I put the names, an alphabetical list of names, and which page numbers they can be found on. Yeah. Some of them applied several times before they got in. So I can see 179, page 179 for a start. That could be maybe the highest. 179, 183. 183.
So that's fairly easy to scan.
They've already been scanned. That's what they are. They're scanned.
Sorry, I thought you said you just had the index and the actual document scanned as well.
What document?
The documents that I index and put in, they were 4 made up one page, because it obviously come from a very big ledger. So 4 A4s made up one page, and I had to work out what went where. Yeah. So I said it was like a jigsaw, putting them together.
Okay.
And they had been scanned, from other documents in that library. So they are all in a very small font, as far as I remember.
And I think Lydia was quite nervous about.
Yes, yes. I mean, you know, I've got the index of them here. As I say, that's 13 pages of index, 4,313 words, it says. And Doreen started to do it because it gives the ages of the children and the reason they are being, the reason for the application. It might say something like father in jail for whatever, or mother an imbecile, or, you know, there are comments that are not very pleasant to read. And then it will say things like brother already accepted, and it could say second application.
Yeah.
And you know, and there's bits of personal family information in it, but not many people even know it's there.
Unless you're a library volunteer.
Yes, exactly. Or if you're the one that dealt with it in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting reading though. I mean, I did find some of mine there. You
did? I don't think.
I mean, I found it interesting that they gave priority to English Jews as well.
To who?
They gave priority to English-born Jews.
I can't understand what you're saying, Anita.
They gave priority to English Jews.
Oh, English Jews. Right.
Because I had two, well, I thought they were aunts, but they were actually my mum's cousins, and they were sisters. And they had, I don't know how many years they were there, but their parents were alive. But they were both taken in to Norwood, and then one of them subsequently went back as a house mother. And I remember visiting her in the 1950s, and she'd got into some slight trouble because the house mothers actually cooked for the children at that time. And she had cooked a meal of some kind of meat followed by custard. And one of the children said to her, Mrs. I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Mrs. Hart or Mrs. Phillips, you've just given us meat and now you're giving us custard. And she said, yes, it's good for you. Obviously, whatever they had taught her as a child at Norwood about dietary rules hadn't filtered through.
And that wasn't soya or oatmeal or almond milk.
No. I don't think they had them in the 50s, or at least I don't think they were commercially available in the 50s.
But when I used to go to kosher meals for lunch from school, there was this old witch type woman, and the kids always used to say she brings her own scraggy old boiling chicken and throws it into our pot to cook it. We all hated her.
But Gina, those documents, it's now not difficult to sort of scan and sort of transcribe and so forth.
I don't know. I mean, you know, Doreen was doing it all by hand, which is what I would do as well.
It can
if you like sorry, Bernard.
Sorry, I was going to say it can be done largely automatically. I mean, there'll be some correction needed, but it's one of the things that has really come on apace. So
well, you'd have to get permission because it's not ours to be declaring. As I said, it's been got in an underhand manner.
Have you seen the Transcribus software and how it works?
No.
Do you want to? I mean, Bernard is sick of the sight of it, but can I just give you a quick demo, because I think it's stuff that's been done with Sephardic, quite complicated documents that we could do with a lot of what is in the.
Are you doing all the minutes of them Bevis Marks?
The accounts books.
The minutes were already done, but the accounts books and the askamot, the decisions.
Yeah, but are they searchable now? Can you put it?
They will be. I mean, we're just completing the financial.
Going through those page by page is a nightmare.
Well, shall I just give you a quick demo if I share my screen?
You don't have Ali's demo of how he's made it into an ebook, do you? Because that's good, because he's talking about making it into individual books, and he did a beautiful job using AI.
So let's think. Gina, do you have any early families?
Well, how early?
Sort of 1680 or earlier.
Shall I give you an Abendana?
Maybe the Vaz Martinez.
So just do.
Well, the Da Silvas might have been here quite early.
I'll do Martinez Portuguese spelling and just see, because I'm not sure. Okay, so Nunez Martinez we've got.
Yeah, that's her, not me.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just click. This work is not being done by me. I just claim some of the credit, but you can see about how
you're basking in someone else's glory.
Easily. Well, I mean, Bernard is doing a lot of work. David Silvera and Ali Ergensoy especially. But you see, this is just, you know, the first search. Let me show you Portuguese Inquisition archive. So if we go, this is the other model. This is Carla Vieira and Friends models from Lisbon. And let me just try and find my computer's getting really slowly. Desktop. Proceso de Miguel de Mendonça. Okay, so let's just take this. So this is just a page from an Inquisition proceso.
Yeah.
It's doing its scanning. And what's being worked on is how, probably using the Python software, we can create a funnel. Okay, so that's the output. Let's copy that and let's just put it into Claude, which is better than ChatGPT. This is text from a let's see, OCR.
It would actually be good to run it through a checker before you put it into a translator, because there are all sorts of errors which lead to confusion in the translation. But the transcription is improving literally every day. I mean, it's quite remarkable.
So my documents I've got from the Torre do Tombo in Portuguese could go in this, yes?
Yeah.
They may already have been scanned and even translated.
Well, I've had it translated by a Portuguese lady, but she struggled with the old Portuguese, I have to say.
This is pretty good, actually.
And then you put it into Google Translate, or
no? This is I'm just doing it in Claude AI, which I think is better.
Oh, I see.
But so it's as I say, I've asked it to correct the text in Portuguese and then give me an English translation. And you know, when I was trying to do a page years ago, I mean, a page would take me sometimes an hour or two, and just look at the quality. It's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good.
Yes.
And there's like 900 pages of that particular processo. So what we want to do is, and there's 40,000 of these Inquisition processos, we want to be able to essentially automate the entire process. And then at the other end, what we're going to do is use sort of natural language processing, essentially to flag up the words that are most of interest. So probably names, dates, places, and that can then be put straight into, automated into a database. And then we
recognize this as, yeah.
We know infinitely more. But the point I'm making is, you know, that this is a Portuguese model. There are English models, and this is manuscript, which is obviously more difficult. So it should be possible just to run the Norwood data through.
It goes across the page.
Okay, Ali has
columns, and it goes right across the page with all the different information.
Ali has been working on how to sort of tabulate. I mean, Ali's making really good progress. So
I'm surprised I actually don't have any copies of any of it here, even to show you an example. Let me put...
My guess is that if you approach Norwood now and say to them, look, I've got these documents, they're not even going to ask how you came by them. But if you say, we would like to process them, make them available in the London archives, make them available, you know, wherever and to you, they would be delighted.
Well, I don't know. You see that Lydia would have to be consulted. We can't, because they're, first of all, because they're locked away.
Yeah, she's a bit nervous about that.
Alternatively, somebody we led off to prison.
I don't want that to be me.
But I think there's a lot of information in the JGS-GB library that would could stand being put through. I mean, if we have people and time and money to be digitized and made available, because that might be a way of then attracting more people to the JGS-GB, which is, I think, one of the issues it has at the moment.
Well, one project I've started on, and it would take ages, and I think I need help on it, is going through the family histories and picking out surnames and possibly places, because all we've got for family histories, and there's about 300 books, 200 to 300 books, all we've got is the title and the author.
Yeah.
And some of the ones I've started on, I'm picking out surnames and places, but it's a long job, and I can only do it if I'm in the library, and if I'm helping a visitor, I can't do it. But I think it certainly is a task that, if perhaps some of the library volunteers or others can take home batches of books to do that, I think it would be very useful. We've got most of the family trees indexed, not entirely up to date, but I'll be doing that fairly soon. But it's these family histories that aren't indexed properly.
I mean, technology is moving so quickly at the moment that Meta just, you know, everyone's launching their AI software. Meta, that's to say Facebook, has just launched Llama 3.1, which actually operates on a desktop. So the sort of software that I was just using is essentially searching through lots of different resources to give me answers. If essentially the JGS-GB could create such a system of its own resources, so that's to say something that is specialized on Jewish genealogy, particularly Anglo-Jewish genealogy, and essentially that would be searchable and give sort of good answers to to people beginning to do their research. So it sounds like science fiction, but
sorry. So what do you actually mean by people's family histories? Do you mean published works of family history in the library, or just stuff that people have sent in, sort of typed up,
Yeah.
whatever?
I know. I think. What are you trying to say, that it's people's personal family histories they've done? Once you get this, you know, AI on it, there's no knowing where it's going to end up, and there's not, you know, you haven't got the permission of the authors to just hand it out willy-nilly, because once it's been scanned, it's out there, isn't it? And it can end up in any other place and being, you know, banded around on Ancestry and My Heritage and Genie and everywhere else, and people might not want that.
you could, I suppose, first of all, you would only share data out of copyright. Now, of course, there could still be some issues with donors, but other information, you could just essentially, it would be indexation. So people would know, like they're searching for Mendoza, and they would then know that there is a document in the library, not about the Mendozas, but referencing the Mendozas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, or 13 documents referencing Mendoza's, so they could go in and spend a happy day going through 13 documents.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of privacy is a fantasy. I'm sure that, you know, the various intelligence agents of various countries and Google know more about us than we know ourselves by this point. So I think we're just kidding ourselves. I mean, which is not perhaps a reason to be concerned about privacy, but I think, you know, that horse is
two wrongs don't make a right.
But if people put their stuff in the library, in the library, they, you know, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can make an appointment within reason to come into the library and see what's there.
Presumably, if they put it into the library, it was because they want the information.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, like, I've just done this thing, as I said, I've done this little, it's an animation showing how all my cousins on my dad's side are related, or how their parents were all related. And I've done it as a video, and I'm going to put it on YouTube, but I'm not going to do it until they've all had a chance to comment. But, you know, everybody who's looked at it so far thinks it's a great thing to do, you know, to share this information, so that, and it's correcting. I mean, I had wrong births, marriage and death dates from every one of the major genealogy programs, companies, which meant that I ended up with the final marriages between my grandfather and my grandmother taking place before my grandfather's first wife had died, and before 2 of her children were born. So, you know, in going through and picking the information out, and then I had to go back and check it against GRO records, which, you know, they also have mistakes, but from those I was able to get enough what I think is reliable birth and death data. I can't find all the marriages, but, you know, I'm working on that. But, you know, I've told the cousins that it is my intention to put it on YouTube, and they're all happy.
I think the JJSGB should probably be encouraging people to do that sort of thing, or back up records. I'm you know, Kevin Martin of blessed memory, we've just got his documents thanks to Gina, and you know, I'm kind of concerned that, you know, when I put my clogs, that all my work should not die with me. That being said, I say some well, my late father, and I had him write a memoir. He wrote some pretty awful things about some people, and I have similar stuff. So I suppose I would want to be safely dead before before that gets into the public domain. But I would like it to go into the public domain, because otherwise it's just, you know, years of wasted effort.
And my guess is that people who've put stuff in the library were basically saying, I want this to be shared. I mean, you know, the concept of public-private domain is perhaps a little sophisticated for people who don't think about these things, but I think that we can generally take it that unless specified otherwise, the intention was it should be available for others to share.
No, I can tell you that
people...
a lot of people who donated books to the library and trees said that they were not to be put available online or shared. They're for people who come to the library, either members or visitors.
Is that of recent years, though? Is that of recent years, or is that some time ago?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Is that of recent years, or is that some time ago? Because things have changed a lot.
I know, but some of it I should think is in the last 10 years or so. I've been involved in the library about 15 years, and quite a lot of people who've donated trees and things like that have been specific that they do not want it put online.
But the trouble is, so people come in and they photograph everything. Can't guarantee that it's not going to go online, because they come in and you see them photographing everything.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
They photograph everything. Everything is photographed. You can't monitor what people are doing in the library.
No.
Well, it's not so much.
But when people donate.
Perhaps the thing is, though, if somebody has shared information, say before about the year 2000, and have never heard of the internet, they might be quite comfortable for people, you know, coming into this sort of dusty library to have a look at it, but they might not want, you know, the dirty laundry to be, you know, easily searchable across the internet. I mean, there's some quite, yeah, you know, there's information that one, well, not me, but, you know, other people may not want to be online about them or about their relatives. So it is a little bit uncomfortable.
I suppose the only thing we could do in that case is to contact people first for the family histories and ask them if they're willing to let it go out. And
what about
not,
people who are no longer with us? What about people who are no longer with us? Are we going to have a
well, it has to be their descendants, or if they're no longer.
It's very complicated. I think it's just too complicated and too much work. You know, we just don't have the people to do it. I mean, a lot of people have passed on and donated work, and to try and find their descendants, they could be anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe 100-year rule, but I mean, none of us will be around then. So.
Yeah.
And that's also a nightmare. I mean, I gave a load of my mother's papers after she died. I was leaving the country in 1979, and I gave them to what was then the Museum of Labour History. And I came back sort of the best part of 20 years later and wanted to look at some of them. The Museum of Labour History had closed. The documents had been transferred to the Museum of People's History in Manchester. They had decided, but I had no way of knowing this, that her papers really belonged in London. So they'd donated them to the London Metropolitan Archive. So I turned up at the London Metropolitan Archive and was told I couldn't see them because they mentioned people who might still be alive. And therefore, I would have to wait another 75 years to see the documents that I had donated that had ended up there. And my workaround is that I go in once or twice a month, and I am digitizing my mother's documents, and where there are any which contain names of people, individuals, not people in organizations, but people who might be identified as individuals, I do 2 digitized copies. One is blank, one is one is full and one is redacted. But it's an enormous amount of work for me, just to try and get access to the documents that I gave them. Yeah. And I think there has to be a better way of doing it. And I think we should actually think about that. Maybe we could have a session to talk about how to deal with information, and particularly this question of stuff that's been donated before the internet, and whether or not we can have a policy to deal with it.
Yeah, my father gave some correspondence between my grandfather and great-grandfather during the First World War to the RAF Museum, and because my grandfather was in the Royal Flying Corps, and they don't know what's happened to these letters. It's just terrible.
At least I know where where my mum's documents are, and they get them out. They kind of come on a big trolley in 40 boxes. I actually left some money for them to curate the collection, but that didn't help. And my aim was to make them available to the public, not for them to be hidden away. But that was before the introduction of the GDPR regulations. And they got to the London Metropolitan Archive around the time that the regulations were coming in on privacy.
Yeah, it was a shame, because with the Colney Hatch, my great-grandfather, who was sort of erased from the family history, was in Colney Hatch with a social disease, and we knew that the document was there. We knew there was an image, and we had no idea what he looked like. And my father and I wanted to see it, but it was under the 100 years rule, and sadly my father died sort of two years before we could see it, and I think we were the only people that probably had any interest in it, and of course the only ones with a meaningful connection. But it's just a shame. But the answer is, I look like my great-grandfather, who died of syphilis.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I've had access to a lot of documents that were handed in at, I think it's the British Film Institute, about Peter Sellers, letters he wrote, and letters that his mother wrote, and his grandmother, and I think they were all just dumped there by, probably, I think it was his mother-in-law, his last mother-in-law, whichever wife that was. And I mean, even somebody like his daughter can't just have them. Really, they should be hers.
Yeah.
And I have photographed everything, and I can't really do much with them. They allowed me to look at them. I applied. I sat there for a day, and I photographed everything. But what do I do with them? Can't do anything.
But it would be good to actually have a discussion and see if we can develop a policy that, where we can have different ranges of permissions, ways of contacting people, a rule of thumb for people who no longer have any descendants.
That's something for David to discuss at council, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the new boy. I think at first meeting I just have to shut up and listen. No, I mean, I'm new there, and it's much more complicated.
They don't like fresh blood coming and telling them what to do.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, hopefully, I mean, if they want, because with Ton, and then also with the Nação Hebreca project, I have experience of equivalent projects. Then if they want, then there's experiences I can share, but I thought I should give something back, as I attend lots of meetings and stuff, but if they want, they want. If they don't, they don't. I mean, it's just
you could just bring it up onto AOB and see what they have to say. You don't sort of put it forward, you'll never know how if the idea would be taken or not.
Yeah, I don't want to be seen as treading on people's feet, though. That's the problem.
No, I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't worry about it.
Famous last words. But it's much more complicated. I mean, Ton and I will have a 2-minute chat, and we go off and do something, and the JGSGB has subcommittees and minutes and everything else, and
they chew the cud for a few years before they
well, I mean,
because your organization is young. Wait until it's had a few years to develop and has gone off into specialist areas and decided that it needs, unless AI can manage it all. I mean, that may actually bring about possible changes in the way we work on these things.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, sort of what all these different, all of us are doing within Sephardic genealogy was basically born within the internet over the last few years, and indeed, and that's now Hebraica, with AI already involved, whereas the JGSGB has been around since the 1980s. In fairness to the JGSGB, it has substance, which we lack. It has resources, which we lack, and it has a very, very healthy bank balance, which we lack. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna diss them, but it would be I think there's helpful things that could be done if they were if they were interested. But I think anyway, for the first couple of meetings, I'll just shut up and listen.
You might raise it as a question, and so that you could bring it up next time with a suggestion or a range of suggestions. In other words, you're not proposing anything, but you'd just like to know, how does this work? Do we have a policy on? And let people kind of dwell on it until the next meeting.
Yeah, you're much more of a diplomat than me.
I think I am, but yes. Although I wasn't with Daniel Horowitz.
No, but he well, deserved is not the right word, but it just wasn't very interesting what he was saying, I thought.
What it did was show that these genealogy online programs are basically, as I said, they're entertainment. And so they're marketing them as entertainment. And he said it's not for people who are serious like us.
Well, that's on one side. On the other side, I assume they're selling to corporations, or will be selling to corporations, like detailed family trees and genetic trees and so forth. So there is that serious side. But I mean, what you said was exactly right. I mean, I'm not really interested in seeing, my great-grandmother sort of blinking or dancing the can-can. I just want to see the data.
Mind you, I quite like seeing all the photographs that they did of my daughter as a an Egyptian goddess and a Greek goddess. Putting you just supply them with the photos, and they
no, that's fun, but that's entertainment. And when I said they do not have a system whereby you can correct factual errors when you've got the documentation. And none of them do.
They don't believe in quality control at all. It's just a word that they don't understand.
Yeah, because that's not what's important to them. What's important to them is bringing people in on the all singing, all dancing Egyptian princesses or whatever.
Yeah. Because when Randy Schoenberg was talking to Sephardic World about the Geni, GENI .com, you know, what I was saying to him is,
Don't you mean .com?
Well, I'm not on it, but you know, he's on it, and Jarrett uses it, and other
I use it, but differently from them.
But what I was suggesting there is that they just have sources. If they can link to sources, and then they can grade the different things that people have put in, it would very quickly start to improve the quality. Because I mean, oh, you know, obviously Sephardic family trees are typical, and you know, this is being recorded. Let's not say that gentleman's name, but there was a gentleman who has had a website. I think he's taken it down now, in which you know, any names and things were just put together like, you know, 5-year-olds with jigsaw puzzles, and having, you know, sources would have made life much easier.
But they're doing that now. They've moved forward enormously on that, on the question of sourcing and on the question of consistency, which MyHeritage hasn't. And looking at the stuff I took from my cousin's ancestry site in order to try and sort out about my grandparents, they haven't either. And Genie has. It's gone the way of Wikipedia. You know, they've now got people checking, and they're checking against you. You've got to be able to verify stuff if there's any kind of dispute, whereas that doesn't arise with MyHeritage, and as far as I know, with Ancestry.
Well,
sorry, this tree of the Jewish people, I find that scary. You know, I mean, because
yes, if it fell into the wrong hands.
You know, I mean, most of it is probably fiction.
So I didn't hear that.
The tree of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of that is just fiction. It's just nonsense. Most of what's on that tree, on those trees.
Probably.
I don't know it. The tree of the Jewish people.
Yeah, I see that
on Genie or MyHeritage.
I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're doing. They're just trying to link up all the trees. That's why you keep getting these messages saying that we've matched your tree. If you join it to this one, you can add another 193 people.
Oh no, that's MyHeritage. Genie doesn't do that.
Well, they're the same thing, aren't they?
Oh, they're not the same thing. They are very, very different. Genie only has single entries. If you've got duplicate family trees, they contact you to say there is a duplicate family tree for this person. Would you like to merge them? Whereas MyHeritage encourages you to have your own tree, and it won't take factual corrections. It'll take agreements to merge. They keep sending me things on MyHeritage saying, you know, you are related to this person. Would you like to merge? And when I look, it's wrong. And then I just
get them all the time. I just ignore them. And
yeah, but that's not Genie. That's MyHeritage. Genie doesn't work like that at all.
Well, I'm not a member of Genie anymore. I just you know. But they're just ridiculous with the way that they link the family, they link the names to make you related to somebody through another 25 people and their cats.
Well, I've just gone into Jewish Gen, and they've got the family tree of the Jewish people with links. So I don't know what that is all about.
Okay, but I don't know this Jewish tree on Genie, so I'll have a look for it. I'm not aware of it. Anyway, I've got to go. I'm going to.
Shall we bring the meeting to an end? So just to remind everyone that there is on Tuesday the 6th, there is a library session which needs to be booked, and on Sunday the 11th at 2 o'clock, Joy Kestenbaum we'll be talking about reconstructing Jewish families from a small Polish shtetl, confronting gaps in the historical record, which actually should be rather interesting, I think. So let me just look down my list of instructions from Lee. I should thank everyone for attending. So thank you everyone for attending.
Our pleasure.
And we
just
shall.
The two of us are your cousins. That's we can't.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's a rather incestuous group. I think apart from Sue, I sort of like either related or know them very well. But no, thank you very much. And as I said, Lee had a family obligation. Otherwise, of course, he would have been here to host. And speaking with my great authority from the JGSGB, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and see everyone soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.